Hey, welcome back everybody. It's Jasvinder, and we're going to start today's video with a little bit of story time. Okay, so legend has it that thousands of years ago, in the time of Buddha, there was a man who went to go see him to seek his counsel and to get his life straightened out from the advice of this legendary sage. All right, so this guy, he makes his way to the temple where Buddha lives, and is very respectful, very humble, follows all the protocol, and finally gets his chance to see him. And he just basically, starts in with his litany of complaints, all about his wife who doesn't listen to him and is always complaining, his kids who are, inept and can't take care of anything right, his lazy donkey, the harsh winters and the poor yields with the crops and all the repairs he needs on his house that can't get done. And it's just like one thing after another. This guy's got a lot of problems, and that's why he's here, right? To see if he can get some kind of advice or get things straightened out. And after a long silence, the Buddha just says, "I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do for you." And this guy is kind of flabbergasted. Actually, he just said, what are you talking about? Like, I came all this way, and you're well known for being the guy with all the answers, right? And it doesn't seem like this would be so complicated for someone like you. And he goes, "No, I'm sorry, but I really don't know what to say. I got nothing." And so this guy, there's a bit more back and forth and protesting, and eventually this guy, very dejected, very discouraged, starts, kind of sulking off into the distance. And just as he's leaving, the Buddha says, "Well, there is one thing I can probably help you with." And he goes, "Well, what's that?" And he goes, "You see, everybody has about 100 problems," whatever the number was. It was some random number. It was like 88 problems or something like that. He says, "Everyone has 88 problems, and there's nothing I can do about any of them." And the guy's still really confused. And then Buddha says, "But I can probably help you with your 89th problem." And the guy kind of looks up like, "What's that?" And he says, "That you think you're not supposed to have any problems." How about that? I like that story a lot. So we're going to talk about this because, when I first heard that, it was really thought-provoking. I liked it. I didn't understand it, of course. You don't just get these things right away. You might get it conceptually, but there's always a lot. It was like they say there's about 7 layers of meaning when people like that make pronouncements of that sort. So my paraphrase of the essence of this story, is that your problems are over the moment that having problems is no longer a problem for you. So that sounds like some riddle me this Batman, Sphinx talk, but it's not, I promise. So we're just going to get into it and break down, I think, where the idea of problems even comes from, what we mean when we talk about our problems, and the kind of mentality, the kind of mindset that is behind this perspective of just seeing problems everywhere and having a problem with the presence of all of these problems, which itself is the problem, right? So I'll say that a problem is a demand placed on your time, your energy, your attention, or your resources, and all of those things are actually just your resources, but we're including mental and emotional resources as well as, food and money and things like that. So a demand on your energy and your resources and your attention and your time that is taking place without your full consent. How about that? That is what we mean when we say that something is a problem. When you are applying your energy and your time and your resources towards something because you want to, and you're free to do it or not to do it, and you say, "I'm going to go do this because I want to do this." Well, where's the problem? Problems show up when expectations get disappointed or frustrated, when things don't turn out like the way you thought they would, when things impose themselves into your space, and now you've got to deal with it. And now you find yourself being forced, I'm putting that in quotes for a reason, forced to spend your time, spend your energy, and direct your attention in places you don't want to be directing it, in ways that you don't enjoy, at a time that for you is not the right time. Those are problems, right? When we say problems, that's what we mean. So if that's what's happening in your life, because I mean, just how much of that happens all day, every day. I mean, just think about the number of things that we feel like we're obliged to do, where we don't see the presence of choice or dynamism. We just see imposition, right? How many of us see our jobs as a series of impositions? I remember when I used to work at this restaurant in Hollywood, and there were times when I would get sucked into this attitude, and there were people around me that I saw who looked like they just lived their lives this way, where they show up to work and every single thing that happens from the time they clock in to the time they clock out is an imposition on them. And it's just a lot of pouting, a lot of avoiding, a lot of not just, I just can't deal, that kind of thing. That was sort of the mantra for a lot of these guys. And I've, at different points in my life, I've sort of descended into that kind of thinking as well. Not so much anymore, fortunately, but that's exactly why we're having this talk, because there is a way to get out of that. The reason why you want to get out of that kind of thinking, of seeing impositions everywhere, is what usually happens is that if you see your life as a parade of problems and a parade of demands and impositions on your time and energy that can't be avoided, well, it's almost like then you're going to exercise your power to ignore and avoid wherever you can the moment that you're able to, because you spend the majority of your day feeling imposed upon at work and unable to hold undesirable variables at bay. And the second you have some sense of control, you 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 basically work out your wish to avoid things at work or at school or at home with relationships or wherever it might be. Wherever it is, you can then go and practice avoidance and ignoring things. That's exactly what you do. If that sounds abstract to you, then just think about the equation of somebody who spends their day at work like that, and they have nothing good to say about their day at work, and it's usually a lot of complaining, and it's a lot of reluctant complaining, like they're half in, half out on the venting, which means they're not really straight with themselves about how frustrated they are. Or otherwise, you would just let it all out, because you want to get it out. But if you're not, if you're halfway about it, it's like you choose to keep this circus going so that you have something to bitch about. But if you were straight with yourself about that, you wouldn't be doing it in the first place. So it's a lot of self-contradictory thinking going on, right? So if you spend your day like that, then chances are you're going to get off work and you're going to have a few drinks, and then you're going to go home and eventually find yourself vegetating in front of a screen and avoiding things like, let's say, not taking care of stuff, like probably not going to go home and clean, probably not going to go home and follow up with people, or have meaningful conversations, or do things that are fulfilling. You're probably going to just sort of tune out. And I have nothing against just getting off work and decompressing. Like, nothing wrong with having a few drinks after work, nothing wrong with slowing down and giving yourself some time to just be actually mindless, like just watching something on TV or on your phone or on your computer, or just sort of idly texting people in a lighthearted way. I think that's all fine and all well and good in a fundamental way. It's sort of neutral. What I'm always interested in is the motive and what drives things and how those behaviors fit into a puzzle or a constellation. Because if they're situated in the middle of a life that is based on this dynamic of imposition and avoidance, then that's going to show up everywhere, and it's going to taint all of these in and of themselves harmless activities with this feeling of avoidance instead of enjoyment. Because what I would say is that you can't really enjoy something if you're just doing it to avoid your feelings about something else. If your leisure time, so to speak, is just one act of medicating your feelings about your job or your marriage or your relationship with your kids or your finances, then there's no real enjoyment, is there? And, basic premise of all this is that I think we deserve to enjoy life, and I think we're all capable of finding tremendous enjoyment. We just want to change the way that we relate to the things that are always happening. That's so much of what we want to clear up, because I tend to focus on things that are here to stay. They are going to be a part of your life indefinitely, no matter what. So you might as well make peace with it, right? And you can make peace with it without kidding yourself, without putting on rose-colored lenses, and without pumping yourself up with any kind of sort of vacuous motivational rhetoric. You can do it with what I think is really the truth and a very high level of reasoning. And really what I'm here to do is reason with you guys, as opposed to pump you up with motivation or to go all spiritual and sort of dwarf the severity of your problems here and now by framing it within this larger sort of supernatural universe that makes everything else that's going on here on the ground level seem small and insignificant. I don't want to do either of those things. What I want to do is reason with you and get to real truth that doesn't depend on getting boosted up or escaping to some sort of spiritual dimension, right? Let's stay right here and let's get this straightened out, shall we? I think that works for me, having tried both of the other ways, you know. So I guess this is my middle path, if you want to put it like that. So anyway, I digress. So when we're just caught between being imposed upon and then avoiding, I think I've established that this is no good and you deserve better and we want to get to better quickly. So what's the alternative? Well, the alternative is to see choices everywhere, to see the freedom to make choices everywhere, and to recognize that you, in fact, do choose all the time. You delude yourself into thinking that you don't, which is why you feel bound in a way, but you don't just accept being bound. You know, you're always wrestling with it and rationalizing and having a lot of cognitive dissonance all the time, because the reality is, if you really got to a place of truth, you would feel completely free. If it was really true that you were bound, if it was really true that life was just a parade of impositions and problems, and that really was, you know, like the unsplittable kernel of all of it, then you would feel a tremendous sense of liberation if you came to that realization. But where is the liberation in that thought? It's nowhere to be found. And my feeling is that it's sort of the inverse of the truth will set you free, which is that if you do not feel free in the presence of an idea, it's a lie. It's a lie that you do not have freedom of choice. It is a lie that you are just a sort of a hapless bystander to a mediocre life without any sense of personal agency. And it's not true that there are just problems everywhere. What exists instead, the alternative, which really I think is the truth, is that all the time you are choosing. And the second you recognize that, with a reminder that's as simple as to say to yourself, I chose it all, then all of a sudden you are back in control. And now all of these moments that pop up are not truly random anymore. They are the byproduct of choices that you made freely. For example, let's take an easy example, traffic. So obviously, I'm not in control of the traffic, and in a way, I did not directly choose the traffic. I'm only in control of my car, but I choose to live in a city that has the kind of traffic that it has. I choose not to live in the countryside where there's no traffic, right? I choose to get in my car at the specific time to go to the specific place that I get into it, and for that reason. And when I do all those things, I open up this range of possibilities that are now outside of my control, but I've chosen to set the whole process in motion. So if I hit traffic, I chose it all because I chose to enter onto a roadway system where there's a where traffic is possible, right? So if it happens, I chose to make it possible for that to happen to me. If there's no traffic, I also chose it all because that's also within the realm of possibilities. I don't control the weather, but I choose to live here fully aware of the spectrum of weather that I can expect. You see what I'm getting at? So anything can be like that. All of the ups and downs and the unpredictability and the emotional volatility and ups and downs of relationships, you chose to enter into a relationship with someone, or you chose to put yourself out there, or to date people, or to get married, or whatever it might be. You chose it, right? Nobody held a gun to your head and made you do it, right? I think you agree. So everything that opens up after that is all in some ways out of your control, of course, but you willingly allowed the influx of all of these unpredictable variables into your life by choosing the few things that you were certain of. So it's not true that you don't have freedom or that you're not in control. It's just that you lack the clarity to exercise your power of choice making with the utmost wisdom and in the utmost benefit to you and all concerned. So the only thing to do is to become more conscious of what is set in motion by the choices you make, and to see everything as inherently stemming from choices that you freely made. You freely made. So nothing is happening to you. You are never a victim. You are never just a bystander. You are never just caught up in circumstances. Every circumstance in your life can be traced in some way to a choice that you made and no one else. Or if it was a choice made by another person, there was a choice of yours that placed you in proximity to that other person, however indirectly, to open up the possibility of your life being impacted by their choices. Do you see? So in a way, what this does is it either creates a sense of total randomization or total accountability. And I would say what's healthier is to go with accountability, because then you only want to refine your process. You only want to become more conscious of how the things that you don't understand or don't want or would rather mitigate in some way, how those things might be improved in the future by wiser choices on your part, choices made with a longer kind of time horizon in mind, or choices that look at the bigger picture a little more, or choices that are less impulsive and reactionary, or choices that are made more slowly. Or it could be that you hesitate too much. But either way, it's an occasion to examine, and that examination is made possible the moment you realize that everything stems from your choices. Because in a way, the way I think about it is that every moment of my life is a moment where I choose to continue living. I choose to continue to feed my body and clothe it and give it a place to live, and I choose to work to generate the income that will provide for all of those things, and I choose how to spend my time, because I could forego all these things. I could, couldn't I? I could just say, fuck it, right? That would decomplicate my life quite a bit. Of course, it would shorten it, like terribly, but this is a choice. I am free to choose otherwise. And the moment that I forget that I'm freely choosing to do everything that I do, that's the moment when the sense of victimization becomes sort of opaque and crystallized, when it's really just an illusion. Reminding yourself, I chose it all, I chose it all, I chose it all, is really the remedy to the sense of there being problems in your life. So I will leave you with that, guys. My name is Jasvinder. Thank you for your time. Please share the video if you found this eye-opening and heartfelt and all that kind of good stuff. And we'll talk again soon, guys. Thank you so much.